Verbal vibrations. Welcome to Verbal Vibration, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am your host. You can call me Mr. Speaker, because I spit the truth and I'm a knowledge and light seeker. We're the poetic pulse, the people, the nation. KUDZUKIAN, the home of verbal vibration. This is a spoken word collaboration featuring artists from across the nation, uplifting the generation, celebrating our liberation from educational castration, connecting you to your real foundation. Our history did not start at a plantation. We are the poetic pulse, the people, the nation, KUDZUKIAN, the home of verbal vibration. Find your voice, begin the celebration, earn your wings, start the migration. Come, expand your education, grow, learn, build, discover revelations. That's right, join, follow, and like verbal vibrations. We're the poetic pulse, the people, the nation, KUDZUKIAN, the home of verbal vibration. We're the poetic pulse, the people, the nation. KUDZUKIAN is the home of verbal vibrations. Glad to have you here. Welcome. When we come back, we're going to have this dynamic poet out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Her name is Marissa Prada. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
R&R on Sports.
We are talking about former NBA basketball player, Brother Mario Elie. Welcome to R&R on Sports.
Pleasure to be on here with you guys, man. Thank you guys for having me.
It's R&R on Sports.
Hello, and welcome to Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm your host, Mr. Speaker, and today, out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, we have Miss Marissa Prada. Hello, Miss Prada.
Hello, Mr. Speaker.
I'm so
Hello,
glad
everyone.
to have you. Glad to have you. Let me get right at these questions because I want to get them all in. Please tell the audience about the early Prada, Miss Marissa Prada.
So I'm born and raised here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, product of a household family. So from an early age, I was just kind of everywhere, didn't really fit in anywhere, was relentlessly bullied in school. And so for me, I was just kind of like an oddball, like a misfit. And when I went to high school, it was kind of the same thing, going through the angst of being a teenager. And that's when I took an English class that we did poetry. And this is a very common thread amongst many poets, is we discovered a class or discovered poetry or writing somehow, like creative writing classes. And my first poem was published in the newsletter for the high school. That was really exciting. When I saw my name in print and my words in print, it was I was hooked. Absolutely.
So that's your relationship right there, was actually seeing your words in writing, your name in writing. That started your relationship really with poetry. Next
to other, like my friends who had their poems just right next to mine. It was absolutely amazing. Poetry saved my life.
We're going to definitely get into that.
So,
but that whole bullying thing, do you think that a lot of people have migrated to poetry as an outlet?
So poetry is only a place you can migrate to if you know about it. And poetry has not been brought to many places in education, in communities. We believe the news, right? So we just, if poetry is available, right? If the outreach is there and the system is set up to bring people to poetry and bring poetry to people, I absolutely know, people would be drawn to it.
Well, let me ask you, this is a hard question. Do I have to be grammatically sound or extremely literate to be a poet?
So poets are rule breakers, so fuck no. Whatever the rule is, we break it and we throw it out the window.
And I'm saying that because there's a lot of people who are using that as a stumbling block to say, well, I can't be a poet.
So here's what I say. Here's what I say to the people who say the C word. I can't, right? I say you can or you cannot. And either way, you're right.
You're right. You make it
So
up.
if they're going to tell me they can't do it, right? I'm in the business of removing no's. And like, I want to pull all of your obstacles away from you, so you can't tell me no. So come at me all day and tell me why you can't do it, and I'll tell you why you can do it. But that's a valid, though, that people feel that they don't have an education, so they're not going to be heard, that their story isn't this, and then it's not valid, and that's not true. Everyone's stories are unique and special to them, and nobody can tell your story but you, and everyone is different, and so you can't tell me your story's not good enough, because it's yours. And you can't tell me that just because you might not have it grammatically correct, or how proper English is, right? We got to be proper with our poetry. Poetry is not proper, right? It's your words, your the way you say them, spell them, lay them out on the page, or speak them into a microphone. It's yours. And that's important.
So when you lay out all that non-structure for just straight writing, and then you step into this slam arena where it is riddled with rules, talk to me about what you would tell a person who says to you, Miss Prada, I want to be a slam poet. What would you tell them?
I would say, then I want to know the real you. I think if you want to be a sheep, then you should go watch traditional slam poets and copy them. If you don't, and you want to be authentically you, and you want to be true to yourself and true to the people who are watching you, then do you. The only thing you have to do is do it within 3 minutes. Right? Like,
and not use props.
Really rule, okay?
Not use props in 3 minutes.
Well, right, you know what I'm saying. Like, don't do things to get you dinged on time, but or disqualified, right? Don't look like anyone else. Don't sound like anyone else. Don't talk the same way as everyone else. Don't use the same performance styles and techniques.
And don't let the low numbers scare you away. Keep doing it.
Be authentically you. Yes, and so you got to have a little bit of thick skin to be a slam poet, in the sense that you can't go expecting to win every time, but you can go ready to compete hard enough to learn to get there. You can't take it personally when people score you low. And you got to be hungry. You got to be so damn competitive and so hungry that even if they scored you zeros for a year, you would keep coming back with better pieces and better pieces, because you can't get better unless you're doing it. You got to get your feet wet. You got to go to shows. You got to get experience. You got to study poets who you are drawn to. What are they talking about? How are they delivering their pieces? But don't copy them. You can use that as a springboard to
your own form,
hone your craft, right?
So give us a short poem real quick, Miss Prada.
A short one. You want short? Well, all right, so this is from my book, Conversations with Grief.
Ooh, and we're going to talk about that in the very next segment. Yes, do this poem. I love it.
All right, so this poem is about the 1 year of poetry that I wrote after my best friend made the choice to end her life. So this first one deals with suicide and suicidal ideation. I typically don't do trigger warnings for poems, but because I'm in a new venue,
go in.
And someone who might be
I'm on the time.
All right, speaker, we're going. It's titled Keep On Keeping On. Have you ever had a gun pulled on you? Barrel long of metal, hollow, dark, startled heart palpates in your chest. That happy little trigger finger, your own finger wrapped around your own trigger handle in your hand, small, light, steel, click of the chamber loaded, pressing pressure of that finger, of that barrel, of that gun in your face. Fantasy, fiction. No realization. Any hesitation, any tears, fears, worries, or relief, it's all about to be over, slumped over, bleeding on the bed from your head, hole in the soul, feathers floating about your room. Too soon you have gone, dear song of my heart, to that dark place. Daydream days, no more fighting each damn day to come up for air, then sink in the drowning dread. No more, now you are dead, for us to do, except push through. Go it alone for each other, and then again, all over tomorrow.
Wow, this is Verbal Vibrations powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and that's Miss Marissa Prada. Thank you all for listening. We'll be right back after this short intermission.
3.
Entering into 40, I still had the same 30 and below confidence.
B.
In a bar, in your own home.
C.
You just feel unseen. And it's like, wait, what happened? Like 2 days ago, I was the
3BC. 3 Black Chicks on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Tissue time. You asked me what was wrong. You asked me why I was crying, such concern on your tiny face. I told you, sometimes mommies cry too. How do I tell you my best friend is dead? She's an angel now instead, that her only way out was a gunshot instead of a phone call. That's why sometimes mommy cries too. How do I tell you there's no money for food? We just use the last of the milk. No way to pay the mortgage, so I sit at this kitchen table and cry instead. How do I tell you the car is broken down, drowning in debt, treading enough water to stay alive, grinding it out in a job, just over broke? Sometimes mommy cries too. How do I tell you the man I love does not love me back? He can't be a man. He can't let me in. He can't live in sin. And so I cry into my pillow, over the steering wheel, the second you walk out the door, after you've gone to bed, while the shower pours over my body, when you're in the bathtub, as you work on your homework and I stir the spaghetti. When the last person leaves my house, mommy cries too. I worry all the time if you will be safe today. Pray that God won't take you away, because I need you here more than you're needed there, that you will know happiness in this precious life. That's why mommy cries. I'm so scared that no one will find me. No one will see me. Choose this old woman I'm becoming, a body warped by life and time, all alone on this journey. That's why mommy cries. Then I realize you're here next to me, sleeping, beautiful angel baby. You're warm, snuggled next to my body. I am not so alone. I am not so unnecessary. I am your mother. You are my daughter, and we will make it through this because we have each other. I love you so much, but sometimes mommies just need to cry too. So here's to all the parents. Don't ever stop fighting. Thank you.
This is Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm Mr. Speaker, and what you just heard was Miss Marissa Prada reading from her brand new book, Conversations with Grief. And that poem was right on point as it pertains to what parents have to do or deal with, and then children being right there in your face, wanting explanations of things that they're probably not ready to handle. But I want to thank you. Talk to us about this book and your inspirations. I've read the book. I think it's beautiful. And I'll just give a quick synopsis that it's Conversation with Grief. It's a book that you're using as a platform to show people how to grieve or what the grieving process is, and you can do it through writing. So talk to us about your book.
So yes, my best friend ended her life October 22nd, 2019. And the fallout from that was devastating. And then COVID hit. And then there was continual isolation. All the live poetry stopped. And so I just started writing. And I wrote throughout this entire process of grieving. It was my way of dealing with it. And I know that her other close friends who we're all friends with were experiencing the same things that I was feeling. And so I was like, I have to make a book about this, because suicide during COVID became huge. And it was very large in our community here in Albuquerque anyway, especially with young people. And so for me, I'm like, I wanted to affirm people in their grief. And the book is broken up into 2 sections. There's the actual section dealing with Crystal's suicide and her death and surviving it. And there's a section in there about grief and motherhood. Being a parent, having to continue your life because there are lives that depend on you, but you're still grieving. And so I'm hoping, if anything, it starts the conversations and helps affirm people when they're feeling that way, whether they struggle with ideation or surviving from someone who chose to end their life. That they know they're not alone. Number one, they know they're important, that they matter, that we want to be here for them, give them a place to reach out and feel like somebody gets it, and I get it. It was healing for me. It's really hard to read a lot of those things that come out of the book as well. But it's pouring into others.
And sometimes they don't realize how to heal. But before we go a little deeper, tell the people where they can find this book.
Okay, so my press is Red or Green. My press is Red or Green Books, READ, redorgreenbooks.com. Red and green chilies is a staple here in New Mexico, so redorgreenbooks.com is the website. You can purchase the book. It's $15 plus $5 for shipping in the U.S. If you're out of the country, I can get you a quote for shipping. But also, if you are struggling with this, with grief or ideation, and you cannot afford a copy of the book, you can reach out to me and I'll send you one, because everyone should have this. It's a tool. I feel like it's been in so many hands now that the feedback is it's a tool for people who are grieving or really struggling with ideation. Shane Maynard did the cover art. Shane Maynard with Guerrilla Poets. This is a picture of my friend Crystal. This is an acrylic painting that Shane did of her. And it's an incredible rendition. But please, you can find me on Facebook, Marissa Prada, Marissa, Prada, Prada. You can find me also at The Word Is Right, WRITE. It's a platform I run on Facebook. We have open mic shows and or workshops every day of the week right now, pretty much. We have cash slams once a month. We have new shows starting. You can find me on Instagram, Prada Painting and Poetry. I do Tuesday, Thursday mornings and Meet the Publisher. We talk about everything about publishing your book. Fridays is Feel Good Fridays, where I read from other poets' books to promote them and push them up. We're going to be starting to do a traveling roadshow. There's a lot of fun things that are coming up. We're launching 20 debut poetry collections in a women's erotic anthology this year alone at Red or Green Books. So
the women's erotic, what do you mean? What are you saying? Women only. Explain
women
that
only.
For the people.
It's a women's erotic anthology. It's already been, speaker, it's already been called and closed. But next year we will be doing.
Explain it to the people so they know what you're talking about. I do. Audience.
I'm teasing you. All right. So the Women's Erotic Anthology, it's a collection of poetry from lots of different women all over the world submitting erotic works. And erotic, and that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself that we should do. But it could be everything from asexual to hardcore BDSM. So it's the whole spectrum. And the book will be out before Christmas. It's a great Christmas present for everyone. Okay. Next year, we'll be doing more anthologies.
So this is Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back with Miss Marissa Prada.
I got up and went to the gym at 9 o'clock this morning. We talked about on the show the kind of workouts I do. It's not fun. I work out until I feel like I'm either going to pass out or throw up. And when I get to that point, I'm just like, oh, I haven't done either. Guess I got to keep going.
The hell with all of that.
And then after
got
that.
like tasks and stuff to do afterwards.
Exactly. I was tired, boss.
Black Nerd Power on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN!
This is Mr. Speaker on Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we have Miss Marissa Prada, and we're discussing Conversations with Grief. And I would say this is an excellent book, and she's coined it and she's been told this is a good tool. And we say tool as something useful for anybody dealing with grief, or somebody you know dealing with grief and you need to help them, use this book as a tool to help them along. And I would just, before I turn it back over to Miss Prada, I would say to you, when you read this book, my personal favorites are Beautiful, 365, and I make sure I pronounce this right, is I-Core. I-Core. Those 3 poems are like, wow. So for me. So Miss Prada, people are using this as a tool to help them with grief. Talk to us about that, please.
So a lot of times we don't know how to express our feelings, I think, generally in society, or it has been driven into our brains sometimes that showing weakness, showing emotion is not appropriate. And we kind of need to get around the stigma of that, because we all grieve. We all love, no matter where you live, where you come from, what language you speak, how old you are, what your gender is. Everyone loves and everyone grieves. And so we should be talking about our feelings and holding space and creating safe spaces for people to talk about how they feel. Grieving is really difficult, especially as a child and you don't have family support or adults to help you through the grieving process. When Crystal died, I was very depressed. I didn't know how to push through the loss of my friend. It was very sudden. And so I joined a grief group, and I knew I needed help. I needed someone to sit and help me through this. And so the grief group that I joined, I heard other people and their grief, and it was affirming for me. And these stories about people who lost their husbands, their children. There was a lady who had lost her dog, and I felt that, the grief, the loss. And so
grief is grief, no matter what you lost.
It's real. You can't push it down forever, because it becomes toxic, and you hurt people. You don't want to bleed onto others. And so if you work to heal yourself, think about it like a wound. You can open it, but you got to clean it out. You got to treat it. It needs to dry out. It needs to scar up so you can keep moving forward. And if you never heal those wounds, it become really damaging to your body, to your mind. And so this book, it just became something I started giving away, even for people who couldn't afford it. My friends in the poetry community just reaching out, and in a non-judgmental way, I just said, let me send this to you, and they've responded like, this is helping me so much. I had no idea how much hurt was in our community. I mean, I know because I hear the poets, but when they read this book and then they write you a thank you letter, that is how I am helping them move through that. It's not something you can equate with a price tag or with anything. So use it as a tool. Write your story, write your grief. Even if you never share it with anyone and you want to just burn it, write it down, but get it out of you. Talk about it. Find someone who will hold space and you can talk about your person who you lost.
The talking piece and the writing piece are releases. It's evacuating it out of your. If you don't release it, it just stays there and it just controls you. You're trying to write it down so you can release it.
There's a poem in here that is a miscarriage poem, and I read it in the UK a couple months ago, and a woman reached out to me and she said the same thing happened to her, and she hadn't talked about it in 35 years. Right. And it's helping her do that. So my advice to you is that if you think your story is not valid enough, or it's not polished enough, or it's not quote unquote good enough, someone in that room needs to hear your story.
Yes.
Someone
say
does.
That. See, right there is the. My story is not. It is important to somebody you don't even know. You have no clue who you're impacting, and I love it. This is Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and I'm Mr. Speaker, and we're talking to Miss Marissa Prada about her beautiful book, Conversations in Grief. And I would say I want you to lay out all the things, and we got to do this in plenty of time, all the things that you're doing and planning to do in poetry.
Okay, so I would love to become a poet laureate. And then win a Peace Prize for literature. We started the press, right? We got this press going. It's a female forward press to this year and next year. We're launching only debut poetry collections. I want to open doors for poets. I want to sell books. I want to go big. I want to change the way books are bought and sold and read in this country, not just this country, but all over the world. And we're just a little peon right now, but we're gonna, it's revolution. We got to know what business you're in. We're in the revolution industry here. We're changing some stuff up in the book world. But outside of just books, we want to go into online. We have big plans for shows, for poetry shows that will be live streamed, because we're in the pandemic still. But once the world kind of opens back up, our people are kind of going to be getting offline a little bit, but we've all known each other and gotten to know and love one another. And so connecting physically with people, doing poetry with the people we've met, but also live streaming it so people who aren't there can still enjoy it, since we kind of have the culture now of being online. So that's the idea with the press, where we want to go. Lots of books. We're looking for sponsorship. In fact, one of the poets who I published, we're getting ready to do a documentary on it with a filmmaker friend. There's so much to come down the pipe. So just do it. I always tell people, I say, it's preparation meeting opportunity. So when the opportunity comes knocking, are you going to be ready?
Are you going to be ready? But you also said coming down the pipe, and I would ask, talk to me about how you feel about erotic poetry and why it's important.
Ha! That was a nice little segue there.
You said
it. Too bad it's a podcast. Otherwise, I would do a Costco demonstration for you.
My goodness.
Yeah. Erotic poetry. Please try it. So even if you're out of your comfort zone, write a love letter to yourself. Okay. Write a love letter to yourself and all the things you love about yourself. Or write a love letter to your children. Start with just the love space. Okay. And then start writing a letter to the woman, right? Write a letter to the man, not the dad, not the mom, not the poet. Write a letter to you, putting that love into you, because then you can start thinking outside the box. When you start talking erotica, it doesn't have to be gross and it doesn't have to be a lot of foul, I put in quotes, foul language for some. It doesn't have to be offensive. It doesn't have to be grotesque. It can be sensual and soft and loving, but it can also be super hardcore, like raunchy. Hardcore. Let's go. And there's no right or wrong way, as long as you do it. And you're going to feel probably a little embarrassed, a little ashamed, because those things are generational trauma that we carry from our parents, from our culture, from our religion, from all of it. So you got to step out of that and maybe walk around your house naked, strip everything back physically so that you can begin to get into the sexy side of yourself and what you want, what you deserve. And if you don't know stuff, then plug in with poets who can help stretch your belief muscles and open up your imagination to things. Do some research, go online, but write something sexual. How do you want to be kissed? Let's start there. Right?
How do you want to be? That's a good one. This is Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and that's Miss Marissa Prada. Red and Green Books. Look for her if you want to publish. You got to be a first time author, and she will take care of you. So, but thank you so much for being on our show. We are definitely out of time. You and I can talk for an hour. We've done it before. But I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing conversation with grief with this audience.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
When Justice Scalia passed unexpectedly President Obama's last year in office, the Republicans refused to even give him a hearing. If he had been confirmed, you would have had a 5-4 progressive majority on the Supreme Court.
Funky politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN! I am depression. I will kill every last one of you. Break you down, turn smiles to frowns just to keep you blue. Given the chance, my goal is to devastate you. Rich or sad, happy or mad, I don't care what you want to do. I will destroy everything about you. My desire is to leave you bogged down in constant rain, afraid and confused. Like COVID-19, I spread from lips to ears with the plan to silently come for you, crushing hopes, destroying dreams, and giving you a self-hate type mood, respecting nothing about you, rich or poor. I don't care what you've been through. Your success, status, and goals I will devour like Kansas City barbecue. My targets are first responders, veterans, Republicans, Democrats, Christians, atheists, and Jews. Deep inside of me, I hate the thought of every single last one of you, Muslims, gays, the weak, young, all colors. See, my aim is to suffocate you, destroy moods, and make you not even want to eat food. Don't believe me? That's because you're tuned into the wrong news. Check my stats. Been killing millions annually for years. Don't be confused. Suicide is my weapon of choice, and isolation is my primary method. See, I am your own rage turned against you. If a mother is struggling with after childbirth, you call me postpartum. When minds are split or confused, you call me bipolar. As 20 plus veterans die daily through suicide, you call me post-traumatic stress. Don't really care what you call me, just as long as my body count continues to rise. While you fall, you come to my call, leave a letter, say your goodbyes, and just like the Pied Piper, baby, say, follow me to your demise. Because the day you let depression tell you what to do, well, that is the night poetry failed you. This has been Verbal Vibrations, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and I'm Mr. Speaker. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us again real soon.
Verbal Vibrations, hosted by James Mr. Speaker Sears. Directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.